right. Well, I'm a little rusty. Sorry, dude. Been a couple days, and well, at least we got some snow coming down again.
Got some snow coming down again. We had our share of snow on Wednesday. Hayden, it was first snow day, and a lot of people, according to my Training Peaks comments, had enjoyed a little winter wonderland over the middle of the week. But it is January 27th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, episode 653.
Yep. And how many checks have you written that said 2022? Probably not a lot, because I don't think we write checks that much anymore.
No, we don't write checks.
Remember, that was a big deal, though.
But I'm sure I have. Yeah, back in the day, it was always to the pizza delivery guy.
Yeah.
But now you pay for all that. So yeah, you just don't write many checks anymore. But there's always that person, right, when you go to the grocery store. It only happens when you're in a hurry, and they are almost always over the age of 70. And you're in a hurry. You got to grab one thing to go to this, one function, or bring it home for dinner. That you need this ingredient. You get in line, and then all right, total's $14.37. Let me get out my checkbook. Hold on a second. Whip out the checkbook. Flip it open. How much was that again? Yeah, $17.30. Takes forever. And then in the middle of it, they're writing it down in the register, right, to make sure they can keep track of what's in their bank account. Rip it off, hand it to them, check the ID, and by then dinner's over. But yeah, there's still people that rock the check thing, and they're writing down the register thing. But yeah, it's a thing, just like this podcast is a thing. We want to say first off, we appreciate all of you tuning in today. If it's your first time, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe, and just podcasts in general. It sounds very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to the world championships, and everyone in between. And we use the feedback loop we have at them and Training Peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question and let's right in. Amazing people, fantastic community, amazing resource in a sport that can oftentimes be very confusing, with all kinds of information from articles and Google searches and YouTube channels and pro triathletes and other message boards. It can get a little bit daunting. So consider that your safe space with a great community inside to hopefully allow you to skip over and miss some of the obstacles and mistakes we've all made in our journey. We'll go in there and do a little bit of a Q&A. Again, you can search that Crushing Iron Group, answer one simple question, and let you right in. And again, don't be a lurker. Participate, right? It's a downtime of year. People aren't super pumped about races and, watching races and talking about things. It's kind of a lull. But it's a great start, right? January's almost over. We've almost clicked off 1 month of the year. So that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have one agenda, and it's an important one. And that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yep. Ow. Yeah, we do. We do. I want to keep you happy and healthy. That's massaging my Achilles.
It's actually, yeah. You can talk about your ski bunny trip here in a minute, but before we go any further, before we get ripped for it, please head over to our website. We always get questions a lot. Again, we're not opening up this podcast with an advertisement or marketing or a spiel about avocado mattresses or health insurance or Roco wetsuits or whatever it is, because we want you to do you. But if you want to support the podcast, the great way to support us is to, one, go to iTunes, leave us a solid review. That helps people find us and grow our community. But also you can go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and click on the gear tab and buy some swag. Get some swag. If you calculate it, it's a pretty good deal for 630 something podcast hours of work handed to you in a simple exchange, and you get some free swag in return. That's a great way to support us. We get questions about that all the time. So we're trying to do a better job of mentioning that on the front end.
Yep.
before you guys get so bored and doze off or fast forward. So yeah, click on that. And then we have some more camps going on this year. Texas camp, Wisconsin camp, even our Tennessee camp has a couple slots open. So if you're looking for a opportunity to get away from the normal day-to-day grind and be away from family and connect with awesome people, check out those camps. They are for, again, every range of athlete you can imagine. We do it by time, not by distance and not by speed. So everyone starts together and finishes together. So if you're looking for a great opportunity to get outside your comfort zone, grow as an athlete, grow as a person, connect with other like-minded people, check out the camp. And if you have questions about any of those camps, you can email Summer, C26operations@gmail.com, and she'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have.
Yeah. And we are working on a beginner triathlete program, which we hope to kind of have together next week. And so just be thinking, maybe if you know somebody who's been looking to get back in it or, kind of turn their life around a little bit, it might be something to think about. What else? And if you order gear, I will personally put a note in there for you.
Yeah, and they are great notes. They are outstanding notes. I've seen them written. They are outstanding.
Some of them are outstanding. Some are like half-assed, but... I mean, it just depends on my mood, but I try to give my all.
At least you're honest. I mean, listen, at least you're honest about it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most important thing is people have a very, very hard time being honest with things these days, just in like being generally objective. But yeah, your honesty at least puts it in there. And like you said, he's honest. He's honest about it. So we'll have those beginner plans. Really, like we said, to start the year and in the last year, to do our part the best we can to help grow the sport. And then I also had a friendly reminder yesterday about two things. One, had an Outside Swimming podcast and a podcast strictly dedicated to getting into the sport and sprint and Olympic distance triathlon. So those will be next week. We don't ever really plan them, but we are now. So next week we're going to do later next week, we'll do How to Not Suck at Swimming, part 7, I feel like it is. And then the other one we'll do will be a kind of an intro into the sport, sprint and Olympic, not just getting into it, but also how to train. I think there's a lot of confusion out there about how to train for sprints and Olympics and how greatly it differs from the other distances in there. But again, it's time to grow the sport. It's time to make it a little more accessible. And, kind of like we owned up to towards the end of last year is, the long course has kind of always been you and I's bread and butter. It's what we've done. It's what we know. So we talk about it a lot. Our athletes do it a lot. So we talk about it even more. But if we want to grow the sport and reach more people, we need to remember that we all start somewhere, and it's a really, really important thing. So we'll cover that next week and appreciate your patience as we work towards getting that podcast out.
Yeah. We'll do it.
And you want to relax today, from what I heard. You went skiing the last 2 days. You survived. You're not laid up in a hospital bed with your leg in a cast, propped up, in one of those kind of hanger things with your thumb up in the air, podcasting from, room 305 in the, Beloit hospital ward. You survived. You're back. And from what it sounds like on the pre-podcast, you took some lessons away from your Black Diamond experiences. I'm going to share them with the masses today.
Well, yeah, I just want to... because I like analogies. I know you do. And I just was thinking about it a lot. And well, first of all, yeah, I got a little Achilles. I have no soreness, which is a great testament to training for triathlon and run camp, I think. I mean, because at the time, it's been, I haven't skied in over probably 30 years or something like that. And, I'm no spring chicken, but got out there and it all came back sort of, but the quads, boy, I'm telling you, it was a real challenge because some of that snow the first day was a little stickier, and you get to the bottom and it'd be like you're flying down the road and then just take your bike into a sand pit. It was kind of like, I didn't wipe out at all, but I got close 15 to 20 times, like to really going hard down. So it was, for me, the Achilles thing really came from putting my, foot in the boot, and pulling it out. It was just like this really different feeling. But so I'm going to take it easy on that. And that's what we should do, right? And when you feel pain like that, I think you need to slow it down a little bit. And I probably stay off it for a couple of days and just give it a chance to get back to normal. But the reason I want to talk about skiing is because it had been so long. And I'm not going to lie, dude, I was kind of nervous. I was a little anxious. the night before I was kind of thinking about it in terms of, race night in a way, because I don't quite get that way, but I mean, I think everybody has a little bit of butterflies, and they should the night before a race. And it's sort of, it was a totally different thing. It was casual, and it was just, socializing and just an experience, and there was no times or anything like that, but I was still nervous. And I was thinking about it, and it was kind of like that morning I couldn't
Wait a minute. What were you nervous about?
Well, just because it had been so long, I couldn't really remember how to do it, and just the idea of bombing down a hill, and so I knew I wanted to take it slow to kind of find my groove again, and just getting on a chairlift, all that shit was like just so, it'd been so long. And I remember kind of, vaguely in my head having these weird experiences, like, almost slipping off the chairlift, just different stuff like that. So the first took the, the kind of the bunny hill, or the real easy hill, the first crack. And I came down, it felt okay. And then I stopped and waited, and I literally just fell over, and I could not get up, man. I was so tense.
I'm trying to picture this right now.
I was on a flat ground, and supposedly it's way harder to get up when it's flat because there's no momentum to carry you to stand up. But I couldn't get up, man, and I was starting to get really pissed because I had done one, and I was just like, I hate this. I don't want any part of it, and I was weak, and I was out of gas, and the whole 9 yards, and I just started. But slowly but surely, I kind of worked my way up, and got through some little tougher ones, and kind of did some mediums, and then I did end up doing a couple little black sections at the end, but that was after 2 days. But the point is, now when I left, and you asked me how much did I feel like I improved, and I feel like it was a lot. I feel like for me, it's still relaxing and letting it come to you. And I just think it has something to do with, a lot of people on the bike, I think, feel similar. And I think a lot of it has to do with how much we ride the trainer and stuff like that. And I think it would, just getting out there and training within yourself is a really good way to go about it. And because I just was thinking about that the whole time. I was like, I kept wanting to go down those black diamonds, and I was like, no, dude, just get out of here unscathed. Because that's where it got to at a point yesterday when I was like, all right, I'm done. I haven't
you made it.
Yeah, I haven't smashed in any trees. Because what happened was I was starting to get worried that I was getting lazy and tired, and I would be, forget to, bring my back leg or whatever and clip a groove and then just go tumbling. Because I was, kind of getting lazy. And that was the thing that I sort of took away, was like, if you're just kind of getting back into it, or if you're not quite where you want to be yet, you got to be patient. And now I felt good about it, but that could have easily gone the wrong way if I'd have tried to Franz Klammer that whole weekend. Remember Franz
I got
Klammer?
A lot to say about that.
Okay.
One, I would have when you said I fell over, I got this picture of a turtle on the back of its shell, trying to get up and trying to get off the snow.
It was literally the not clip out move.
But that's exactly what I pictured. And it brought a smile, a much needed smile, to my face on this Friday.
Oh, good.
But listen, you said it. We both like analogies. I'm an analogy guy. Towards the end of that, now I'm going to talk about the beginning, and what I heard was, relaxing, but I also heard a lot of patience, and kind of a healthy level of and understanding and objectivity of where you really were when you hit the slopes. But on the back end, to cover it quickly, I see this all the time with athletes. You talked about you were starting to get lazy, right? And you got lazy because you got more confident, right? It wasn't like your first time out. You were like, I'm doing pretty good. Then you kind of, it's we talk about it a lot in mountain biking and trail running, right? Mm-hmm. You got to stare at the ground. You've got to be present the entire time. Because if you don't, the mistake just isn't a mistake, right? You're either going to eat dirt if you're on the trail, or you're going to bite it hard on your bike. You have to pay attention. I imagine it's very much the same thing you were thinking about when you're skiing. You're very aware of what your body's doing, how it's moving, what to do, what not to do, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can do this now without quote unquote thinking about it, right? So that's when your mind drifts, right? You become you don't become present anymore. Your mind shifts off into, what am I going to eat later? Man, this is fun, or I wonder, I got to get back to work. What am I going to do? Bam, and you're done. Right. Mm-hmm. It's not because you forgot. It's because you have to pay attention. People do it all the time when they're running. Right. They drift off. They hit a curb, or they're riding, and you see it all the time in races. Right. People will swerve like to the right or swerve and like hit cones for no reason whatsoever. Same thing with open water swimming. Right. You get in there in a race, you start swimming, and I'm like, I'm getting in the mood. I'm looking at the bridges. I'm looking at the scenery, and I'm looking at the sky. Oh my God, I'm 70 yards off course. Right. All the way to the right. We've got to stay present about so many of these things. Like you said, I think it was a great awareness of you just saying, you know what, two things I think every athlete should understand about themselves. And I say this a lot. I do the same thing. And I know you do too when it comes to creativity as a coach, because being a coach, you have to be creative. You have to use your mind. You have to think about ways to solve problems. If I'm doing, like yesterday, for example, Hayden had a snow days at school Wednesday. I was a little bit behind on working on train blocks for February, and I wanted to finish yesterday to free up my day today. Mm-hmm. But what happened was I was a little bit tired, and then I just got into a mode where I had about 20 people to work on, and I clicked on a specific athlete, and I just thought to myself, you're no longer going to do any good work today. Just put it away. Mm-hmm. Because to me, it was better to just stop right where I was and knew that I had done good work up to that point, but also just realize that, I could force my way through it, but would it be as thoughtful, right? Would I be prescribing and putting in the sessions that really, really needed to be put in, that these athletes really deserve to have? Or could I just not do it, even though it kind of drove me crazy to not finish it? But I knew that doing it today would be much better. And that's what I did this morning. And I felt great. I felt energized. But the first part of what you said about skiing is what I think so many people need to hear right now. And it is about relaxing, and it is so much about patience. One of the biggest, and honestly, frankly, one of the hardest conversations that I know I have to have with athletes right now as a coach is for most people, November, December were down periods of time. End of season, end of a great season, or end of a bad season, right? Bad season for a variety of ways. They had bad races. They were hurt. They were sick. They had, lack of motivation. Then, December rolls around. They really embrace December rules. Maybe they put on a few extra pounds, living off beer and cookies. And then everyone starts January 1st, and we get this cleansing feeling of, I get to start anew. And you do. But what we don't like, I'm not going to say we don't remember, but we don't like to remember and we don't like to think about was that we have to dig ourselves out of the hole that we put ourselves in. Mm-hmm. And we can get very, very caught up in the work that we've done, right? We talk about this frequently on a number of podcasts in a variety of different ways about your athlete life cycle and your career as a triathlete, as a hobby that we do. You should stop seeing it as a trend that ends every year, right? Or races that end and have expiration dates. Your whole experience, right? As a triathlete, and speaking from someone myself who did their first one in 2002, right, or 3, like 20 years ago, I've continued. I haven't gotten to start over every year, right? Thankfully, I go up, I go down, you go up, you go down, 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 down. You're always going. But what happens is we get so prisoner of the moment and caught up in what we've done recently, then a lot of people forget what they didn't do or chose not to do in the last 30, 60, 90 days. But what we want is that we want it all now, right? And that's when I heard you saying when you talked about patience and relaxing and not forcing things. And you had a very real objective understanding, albeit, 20 years that you hadn't skied. You kind of had some healthy fear about it, right? You went in serious. You were nervous before you went to sleep. You were nervous about every single aspect of the experience, right? Not just, missing a jump, right, or landing, but everything from the ski lift to getting the boots on, like a healthy. And then once you did it for a little bit, you didn't get cocky, but you're like, yeah, stop thinking about it. And then it became kind of like, dangers popped up, right? And I think that's very, very true right now with athletes, that everyone's gung-ho in January. Everyone's excited. It's, new year, new me, new races, new opportunities, new PRs. And then we get a little bit of improvement, and then 3 weeks don't erase 3 months, right? But 3 weeks don't also make the next 3 months. And it's just very important for every athlete, no matter where you are, no matter what you did 3 months ago, no matter where you want to be in 3 months, to just straight up be present in what you did today, and to not specifically look for. And again, no matter how many podcasts we do, no matter how many times as a coach I tell an athlete, cover your ears, because I know we did have a 5-star review come in that said, chill out on the F-bombs, but because their kids are in the room, but calm the F down about every session, about looking for a breakthrough or even an improvement every session, right? And I see that with so many athletes who try so incredibly hard. And did you hear what I said? Tried so hard. When you try so hard, that doesn't mean for most athletes you're putting in extra work, you're putting in extra effort, you're paying attention to the details. It means you're too tense. And this is exactly what I told this athlete, and you talked about it with cycling. I said, listen, I don't know a single athlete. This is my comment, almost not verbatim, but pretty close. I said, I don't know a single athlete who expects so much every single swim. And what usually happens with athletes in the pool is that when they want to see results, they try harder. And when they try harder, they swim slower. Because, most athletes, and we'll talk about this next week, but most athletes think moving your arms faster means faster swimming, right? But it's very different from cycling and running. Running, you want to move faster, or you're going to run faster, increase your pace, move your legs faster. Cycling, same way, better, higher gear, faster cadence, boom, I'm moving faster. Swimming, you flail, right? Flailing, it's not strong, right? You want to be strong because strong is fast. And that comes to, it's very non-traditional thinking. All right, I need to relax more to go faster. Okay. I need to think a little bit more and be more present. Okay. That's not what I'm used to, but that's what happens, right? And so I think when we want things so badly, we end up getting ourselves in a hole or getting behind the 8 ball or making huge mistakes because we force it, because we want it so bad and we want it right now, even though your body doesn't care. It can only do what it can do based on what it's done before. And so regardless of where you want to go this year, you've got to remember in January and February and June and July, whatever month it is, you are where you are for a reason. Whether you worked hard to get there or you were lazy, in November, December to get to where you are now. But you can't rush progress. All you can do is progress each day. And that comes down to just small decisions. And the biggest piece behind it is exactly what you mentioned in the topic for today, which is it's just relaxing along the way and being patient with the process.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to note that, if you've been in the game and like we talk about being in the ballpark, and I kind of feel like that's sort of where I was coming into the end of the year. And this year, the first part of the year I've committed and I haven't missed a workout. And the last 2 days, of course, we're skiing, and I'll take that. But I was surprised and happy with how far I came. And Emily was with me, and same thing. She's been working out every day, and we both got done with in 9 hours of skiing, which is kind of legit, and over 2 days, and not sore, So but the focus, like you said, I haven't been trying to, break any speed records, do any of that kind of stuff. I've just been consistent and getting back on it. I've been adding a lot of walks. Like I've kind of gotten into this treadmill walk thing where I kind of up the pace a little, but I'm walking, and I up the incline a little bit and go back and forth and just kind of walk strong, and a lot of that stuff I think has been paying off. And the other thing I want to note is this thing about relaxing and versus flailing. And I spent most of the day yesterday just kind of observing from the ski lift, looking down at people. And it's so obvious. You can tell when somebody's like nervous or tense just by watching their form. And then some of these people would just be like just cruising down these big old big old slopes like it's no big deal, just completely relaxed. And I cannot overemphasize how important that is. I think that we, and you said don't try so hard, and that's the thing is like, how do we find and get comfortable? And I think that's what I was doing. It was just going my own pace until I got comfortable there, until I always talk about owning where you're at. And I think we've had a podcast on that. Own the shape you're in, own the talent level you have at this moment or whatever, and really master it before you move up. Because if you try to move up too fast, you're going to get all disjointed with your form and things like that. But just if you can own the pace you're at right now. And I like to watch, some of these, like, I think the one that comes to mind is like watching Rennie in that Kona win or whatever, or Patrick Langa, and he's just like, they're just so smooth.
I know.
Running at the end of an Ironman, and I think there's something to it watching that. I mean, I get more out of watching that than watching myself swim. I'll tell you that.
100%.
It's like if I watch myself and try and figure it out, but just watch people who are doing it right in a relaxed way and sort of like kind of absorb it, or at least try to emulate it. They always talk about copies. What is it? Copies the best form of flattery or whatever. But I do think imitation. But I think there's something to it. You watch people do it the right way and just have that kind of thing in your head while you're doing it. I think that works. So I was just watching these people ski and just smooth as silk, just going down. Like I was doing those big, like some of the steeper ones. I'd do like one of those huge C's or those big wide S's, and just kind of actually when I turned, I'd go up the hill a little bit to slow down. And kept coming back as I knew that, that was the way I could control my pace a little bit. But some of these people were just like, just dusting their way smooth right down the middle of the hill, not too wide at all, just kind of slaloming back and forth and totally under control. And that's sort of what I was working towards at the end, was just this sort of not leaning forward over my skis and just being tensed up the whole time and just being able to relax and let, and that's the thing. Again, I talk about that with the bike a lot, because I used to mountain bike a ton, and even like I love hills, and that's why I was like going back to Wisconsin and riding the hills and bombing the hills. And it's just 100% about being relaxed and, knowing where to look. That was the other thing I was working on all day yesterday. I was like, sometimes you can you're right, man. It's like if you're out running on a trail and you're just like, man, I wonder what we're having for dinner. And that's immediately when you hit a rock.
Yes.
And stumble. And that's what I was thinking about yesterday, is like, where do I look? Not right below me, but like out a little bit, kind of a gaze, just suck, it's like when you're driving. I think we get so used to driving that we look in the right place because we've done it so much. You don't look right at the end of the hood. You don't look too far out. You just kind of have a sense for where you're gazing out into and I think that's what cycling is all about too, is sort of like having a good awareness, and you don't look at the road because you don't see what's coming. You kind of look out a little bit and see danger or whatever developing way ahead before you have to react to it. You see it coming. And that's the thing about going down hills or whatever it is. You kind of have to just really be in that moment, relaxed and comfortable and not stressing, or else it makes it so much harder. It really does. If like you're just leaning on your brakes the whole time and worried about everything, I think the slower, it's like that thing out there yesterday. It was kind of like sometimes the slower hills were harder for me because, it gave me more time to think, and I was, not just reacting as much. And I think reaction is a really good place to be in everything athletically, just being able to react versus think about it.
The mental energy, when you're talking about driving in the car, it was such a great analogy, because I also pictured when you're driving the same route you always go home every day, but your mind drifts, and what do? Miss the exit.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's done that, right? They've just been like zoned out, listening to music. They've had a rough day. They mentally don't have the energy to pay attention anymore. They just assume they're going to get there. And they 2 exits later, now, you got to go some detour and 20 minutes late, but everybody's done that, right? It's such a great example. And I love what you said about being one with the bike versus fighting the bike. And we talked about this a little bit, I think, last week, and it was like somewhat transgressor, like about how we allocate mental energy, right? We were talking about it before a podcast. We never talked about it. Maybe we will, but about the mental energy and drain from signing up for a race and talking about it and being about it, but not doing the work about it. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to being tense, right, and forcing things, and I talked about it, a lot. You talked about fighting the bike versus being one with the bike. Like, you should move with the bike, not try to fight your bike. And so many athletes are so tense and ride their brakes, it makes it even more unstable, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing with running, right? Going down a downhill or a trail, they call it like a controlled fall. You just go. Right? You just go. The more you try to like land back on your heels, the more likely you are to fall. Same thing with swimming. Fighting and flailing is not fast. It's just not, because you're erratic. And the amount of energy it takes to be erratic is so astronomical that the return on investment is so minimal. And that's what makes me feel so slow. But when you talked about, paying, you got kind of lazy on like some of the easy stuff. We're doing two main points I kind of want to make from what you just said is, one of the hardest conversations, again, you have to have with an athlete is, example, they sign up for a race January 1st, right? And let's say that race date is September 1st. And they're all gung-ho for the first week in January, and then the rest of January hits and they do nothing. February, they're kind of like, meh. March, they're kind of like, meh. But then for some reason, April 1st, the sun's out, you're ready to roll. Let's do this, man. They got May, June, July. Oh, I got 5 months. Let's rock. Well, what they want now is to do 8 months of work and development and progression and focus in 5. They just because they sign up for a race in September and they skip the 3, they want to skip the progression, right? And as a coach, it's a very fine line, right? Because my job and our job and the way that we see things with how we coach and work with athletes is your inability to focus and be motivated and to get in work from January through March isn't my fault. But my responsibility is to progress you in a way that is safe to get the most out of your overall development towards the race that you do. But we're not going to cut corners because you didn't choose to go ahead and start following the process earlier, because it's irresponsible, right? It's also not safe, and you're begging for injury and burnout. But what you're also begging for is non-development, because as coaches, we have to look past September, right? To where you will be, take the 3 months that you skipped, and I want to look at where you can be, October, November, and December, right? On the 8-month block that we had originally planned, right? Yes, you can condense things here and there depending on how things develop, but you can't skip steps. And that's just a fact, right? It's just a fact. And I think it's an important fact that everyone needs to understand and realize is there are no steps skipped, right? Mm-hmm. Where you get value from it. You can cut corners. You can take the Cliff Notes version. You can, I get an email from April to October. I get at least a few emails a month saying, hey, I got 6 to 8 weeks left in my training. I'm really kind of struggling. Can you work with me? No, I can't, because there's nothing we can really do in 8 weeks, right? It's this last minute where we want to forget, but we're ready to go right now, right? But we got it now. And then moving away from that, but going back to what you're talking about mental energy and focusing or not focusing on the easy hills, is you can try to be fast by forcing it, right? You can try to be fast by forcing their progression or running faster than you should or running longer than you should. But where you can, and then that takes mental energy, right? It takes effort to go harder, to go long. That's why you see so many people get burned out when they coach themselves, because all they do 24/7, 100% of the time, swimming, riding, and running, is they're in that top end gray zone, right? A zone 3 that's, gotta be fast or run fast, right? And they get burnt out and they're toast and they don't progress. It takes effort. Or to get faster, what you can do is to take that same amount, right, of mental energy units that you have, right? Let's say in order to go out and run, 5 times a week, really, really hard, it takes 100 points, 100 mental energy points in running. Well, and that's it. You're not working on form. You're not working on progression. You're not working on being a better runner and a more efficient runner. You just want to run hard. What you could do is scale it back to maybe 3 to 4 runs a week, or maybe 6, run easier, but the extra focus you have is on technique, right? That takes focus as well. But you're not going to see the short-term gain immediately. But what you will see is tripled gains in the future. But that is not what people want to hear and do. I had a comment, two comments of me thinking about that. One this morning from an athlete I've worked with for a long time. And she said, my husband told me that I actually look like a runner today, because we've been doing a lot of form and technique and efficiency drills. And then another athlete from a cycling standpoint was doing a lot of aerobic threshold work from a test we did. And he was like, I'm like 15 watts higher than I was just 3 weeks ago. This is like really benefiting. He's also doing the work, but it's not flashy, right? No one wants to get down and be like, all right, who wants to hop on a ride basically middle zone 2 with me for an hour and 20 minutes? No one raises hand, right? You feel totally lonely. Like, I don't want to do that. But it's the immediacy of it, right? I was listening to a podcast yesterday on the way home from the airport, and they said, talking about the stock market, and we had I can't remember his name now, but you got the same email I did from the guy. We talk about stocks and investing and trying to time the market, and this guy said that millennials aren't making any money in the market because they're trying to time it. They'll put it in, they'll take it out. 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 All the energy is from that, and how much better, right, they would be if they just set it and forget it and just let it materialize over 5, 10, 15 years in doing nothing. The biggest return was from doing nothing. The smallest return was from doing too much and too much work, right? And that's what you see with athletes. It was a perfect analogy for athletes over the course of the year. They're in, they're out. They're in, they're out. They're in, they're out. They're too hard, too hard, too hard. Now I'm off, right? And the benefit, and they're flashy, they're shiny. Give it to me all. 3 or 4 weeks of passion, and then 4 to 5 weeks of zero. Right? The yo-yo, the roller coaster. And then you got, Quiet Quinn over here in the corner, just chipping away. 7, 9-hour weeks. Boom, boom, boom. Gets his race in the year, smashes it. Why? Because it's progression. You're not trying to rush it. You're not trying to fight it. You just understand that if you want to improve and you want to be your best, it takes time. It takes time. And there's such a denial of, or maybe a lack of acceptance, maybe they're both the same thing, is of what's required to get better and the amount of time that it takes. We just want everything now. And it's just, I feel like one of the, as a sport, right? I think triathlon faces a few challenges in how they're doing things from a youth movement, from beginner movement, grassroots races, and beyond. But I think one of the biggest issues that triathlon has is just humanity in our desire and obsession with wanting things now. We would rather you could win the Powerball $4.5 billion, right? And have it allocated or distributed to you over the course of 30 years. You never have to work a day again in your life, ever. And you could do so much good with that. Or you can take a lump sum after taxes of $550 million. They're like, give me the $550 million, take it right now. It's like that's what, and then they go bankrupt in like 2 years, right? That is who we have become as a society. I'll pay $500 to have it tomorrow versus paying $75 to wait 2 weeks for it. Because then what's usually going to happen? Guess what? A week later, you'd be like, you know what? I really don't need that, right? Or I figured out that I can figure out this on my own, or make this, and I don't need it. That is what's hurting, I think, triathlon in general too. Is we want everything now, and it has to happen now. But the progression, the patience, like that is where you see, and just frankly, just a removal of an expectation to see something huge happen every time you get on your bike, every time you put on your run shoes, every time you get in the pool. I don't know that I've ever, it's been a long time, 5, 6 years probably, since I've had a feeling where I went out and I was like, I expect this to rock today. Because all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure, right? Because the best days you're ever going to have in life, more than likely, are the ones you could never predict. Period. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that we forget so often. If you look back over the course of your life and you look back at the best days or the hardest days, you would have never predicted them because they just happen, right? And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of training. That's the beauty of life, is that when you take your hands off and you stop forcing things, great things happen. So just take your hands off, relax a little bit, do the work, and again, be in it for the long haul, which again, going back to some of the reasons the sport isn't growing is no one wants to get in for the long haul. They want to go couch to Ironman in 6 months, right? Don't know how to swim, don't own a bike, but I signed up for Ironman Arizona. Let's do this. And then you don't progress. You just try to make your way through, right? Just to kind of cross up. But there's very little self-development, self-exploration there if you just hang it up and pick up something else, right? Nothing wrong with it, but if you're getting into the sport for reasons that are about getting better, getting healthier, improving your quality of life, improving, your mental, emotional, and physical health, that takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. And we want everything overnight, and you can get some of those things, but I'm telling you, the best things in life take time. They take a significant amount of time, but there's also so much more value there than, the one-off or the one-night stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. When I signed up to go skiing, I didn't, and there was part of me that was like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just say I'm going to do it, and I was kind of scared. Like I said, it was kind of that race feeling, and it was kind of cool to feel that. But you said when you're talking about skipping the progression, that's exactly the feeling I have today. Not that I skipped it, but when I was talking about how I somehow decided that I was just not going to go out of myself yesterday or this week, and just kind of build up and get it down. Because at first I was like, yeah, I want to do it, but then I didn't really want to do it because it was just, I don't know. We all face that. You kind of sign up for things that scare you a little, and it had that impact with me. So I wanted to just take it slow and do it. And I talk about this all the time, but to me, the absolute secret of being successful in triathlon, probably a lot of other things, is to do today in a way that makes you look forward to tomorrow. And I went out and did these. The first day I was real patient with it. I didn't try to do anything crazy. I got onto a couple of hills that felt like a little bit out of my range, and I backed it down, and I just kept working and working and working. And yesterday we went out and I stretched it a little further. And honestly, when I went into this, I'm like, I'm going to ski a couple times and that's going to be it for the next 20 years or whatever. But when I left yesterday, I didn't tackle those black diamonds really, but now I can't wait to get back to do it. And that's how I've been looking at training too. And I try to always look at it that, and it's the hardest thing. If you keep it in your mind, I think it helps to think, okay, yeah, I could run 15 more minutes right now, but what's that going to do? I mean, that could shell me a little bit and then make me wake up stiff tomorrow and not want to do everything. But like, if you can kind of just leave while you're ahead every day a little bit, leave a little bit on the table and say, you know what, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's workout. And that's when and you're in a good groove too. And I think that's a lot of what coaching does for people is it's like, Coach, I feel pretty good. I could go a lot further today. Yeah, but 2 days from now, you got huge stuff happening. So we want you to kind of feel great, feel pretty good and look forward to that, right? Those are the things that we look at, and that's the stuff I think about all the time, man, is like, how can I leave this gym tonight feeling like I want to keep going, but just hold back and wait till tomorrow and just build a little bit more layer on it. And it sounds simple, but I think that's the thing too, is like, that's the way to enjoy it, right? I mean, because if you can really enjoy what you're doing, that's going to go so much further than struggling through workout after workout after workout just because you're trying to prove to yourself that you're tough or that you can do it. But do it in a manner, like you said, don't skip the progression. Just do what you got and build a little bit on it every day and look forward to the next day. And I think those are the simplest little tricks that you can kind of put in your pocket and really help you be successful going forward.
One of the most underrated aspects of leaving a little bit in the tank is that it's not the physical tank. It's the mental and emotional tank, because that's where your decision making comes from. You don't wake up, very, very rarely, right? Do you wake up and you're like, my body's telling me no today? Because more than likely, if you want to go, you'll go regardless, right? It's your mind and your heart. They're like, let's get up today. Let's get rocking and rolling. And then you figure out what your legs feel like. If you burn yourself and you keep, crushing yourself every single workout, chasing this immediate goal or chasing this and chasing that, it's going to erode. Your ability to continue to get up each day is going to erode, because if you keep reaching for the third floor and you're only prepared for the first, then the falls are going to get harder and harder and harder and harder. And eventually, you know what you're going to say? I don't want to go for the third floor anymore. You're right. I don't want. I'm done. I'm done. You walk away. What you could have done is taken just one damn step a day, and you get there get there in a month. But no one wants that, right? They want to take the risks and try to get there immediately, and then they give up because they keep failing over. Because you're not failing because you can't. You're failing because you're unwilling and unable to be patient enough to let your body progress and your ability shine. You're just too impatient. And that is such a something you see so often with athletes that you come. I look at their training, and I start working. I'm like, dude, like it's no wonder you wanted to quit. You've been flogging, you've been running into a brick wall, right? But the door was just over there to the left. You could have just walked in. You could have just walked in if you waited a little bit longer. But they just pound and pound and pound and pound. Because all they can see is that little sliver of the brick wall in front of them, right? Or they could step back and take steps backwards. I don't want to take steps back. I got to get through this wall. I'm tough, right? Just take like 20 steps back. Take a few shifts over. Oh, look, there's a door. Oh, it's not even a door. It's a doorway. I don't have to open a damn thing. I just walk right through, and there you go, breakthrough. But no one wants to do that. And in so much of coaching, right? Coaching isn't about, laying out this red carpet and this secret sauce. It's about getting people out of their own damn way. It's 100%. It's like most people, when they coach themselves or they read some of these, just to be frank, just really shitty books that try to coach you through training and Ironman specifically, you're just you're banging your head against. It's like you're training blindfold and you're expected to make it through a maze, right? That's how complex. Because the thing is the training isn't complex. The training isn't complex. That's just a fact, right? Most people could write a halfway decent program. The physiology, the science, it's all out there. The most complex thing in triathlon is not nutrition. It's not the bike. It's not power meters. It's not metrics. It's not carbon-plated shoes. It's not swim sets. It's you. It's you. You are the most, I'm pointing at you. You, in the mirror, I'm talking to you. You are the most complex piece of your triathlon puzzle. 100%. Your mental and emotional health, motivation, commitment, your insecurities, your ego, your lack of confidence, your knowledge, your lack of knowledge, right? Your fear of failure, you're overzealous in certain areas. You're impatient, or you're too much, too patient, right? You're too scared to fail, or you're over cocky, all those things coupled with your injury history, your age, your sex, your weight, your hormones, your professional life, your personal life, your all those things. You are the most complex piece of it. And that is what coaching is about. It's about trying to unwind and unravel people to get them out of their own way, because we are who we are for a reason. And you don't try to change people. You just try to kind of like move the cobwebs out of the way or untangle them. Most people come to us in that one box of Christmas lights you don't want to touch. Because they were the last ones you took down, the previous year, and you didn't wrap them the way you should. And they're just this big, tangled mess of lights. And that's just how they come to you. And it's your job as a coach to slowly unravel it how it should be, right? From kinks to knots to injuries to, a bulb out here, a bulb out there, and make it all light up and make it all one string and make it the way it should be. That is without question, the hardest part of being a coach. And that's why when you take a stock, anything, I want to do an Ironman this year, but I'm so complicated, but I'm also going to pick the most complicated plan out there. That's not going to work, right? It's like you're expecting to grab that wadded ball of Christmas lights, throw it on the Christmas tree, right, which is your race, and expect it to perfectly unravel on every single limb, bink, and light up like the best tree you've ever seen at Rockefeller Center. That's what you're expecting, but it doesn't work like that. And it's just a very untalked about piece of coaching and training of what is so difficult to do. And that's why 95% of all pro triathletes have a coach, and coaches have coaches. And it's not because everyone needs so much help. It's because 90% of us need someone to untangle it for us, because we see things through a different lens, right? You and I've talked about it before, mentioned on the podcast. I've been overweight before. You have before. You see yourself in the mirror. I probably add on an extra 20 every time I look at myself in the mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Just because our lens is our lens, and it's there for a reason. And our experiences are our experiences, and they're there for a reason. Our reality is our own reality, and it's there for a reason. You need someone to not be in your reality, but can look on and be like, dude, you actually got things pretty smooth, right? Like if you want to compare things, or you can tell us, be like, you know what, dude, if I was in your position, I'd be destroyed right now. I'd be stressed to the max. I'd want to take a fucking break, take a few days, and get some sleep. I had an athlete yesterday. Hey, I've got this workout today. But my stress is super high. I know I should skip it. Can I move it? And I said, no. Go to bed, sleep. But can I move it to Saturday? No. Just take the day off, right?
Yeah.
But that's the mental piece that people can't, right? If you can't make those decisions, the easiest decision of not doing a workout, how do you expect to make all the hard decisions within within what becomes, right, so complex? Because we make it that way of training and triathlon when it can be just so fun and it can be so simple.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. I like that Christmas lights analogy too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all about analogies, man. People hate on it sometimes, like, oh, you can't explain anything with an analogy. I'm like, yeah, well, I could explain it once and 3 of you would get it, or I can explain it with an analogy and 90% of you get it. That's just part of what we do and who we are.
Yep, that is it.
It is. Yeah, and the thing is, with you and I, we can both relate to that because we are both those people, right? Like we see ourselves through a lens. We've got our egos. We've got our insecurities. We're also, usually pretty objective about where we are and frankly, why we got there. And I think it's a really hard thing for athletes to wrap their brain around, is how did I get where I am, right? And accepting that and then being okay with it, that's okay, right? And then all you can do is go forward. By doing something today, no matter how far back it goes, by doing something today, you're farther along than you would be had you not. And that's the only thing you got to think about. When you wake up the next day, wake up the next day, wake up the next day, all I got to do is move one foot forward, and I'll be farther ahead. I don't need to make a jump, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to try and skip a few steps, because that's when you sprain an ankle. Just a step, just one step, and I promise you'll get there. It might not be as quickly as you wanted to, but it'll be more valuable and a better, more fulfilling, and ultimately faster experience if you just wait.
Yeah, and I'm facing that today, man. Been neglecting the pool a little bit, and now I have to take some time off on my legs. It's been a grinder. So I'll be down there doing some patient 25s, maybe some 50s, and just not try to be who I was last fall yet.
Did you put a note on the ladies' locker room at Del Boca Vista letting them know you weren't going to be in the pool this week? Because there are going to be some devastated ladies, I would have to imagine.
I said I'll be back Friday. I have flyers out.
Okay, so you'll be back Friday. So when you walk in, there's going to be a perfectly rescheduled aqua aerobics class where there's going to be like 40 ladies in there all waiting for you to do the slow-mo undress on the pool deck.
Yep, 5:00 on Friday. No.
Do they watch you put on your floaty pants?
No, I don't. I haven't been using them, but I think today I'm really going to take the pressure off the legs today. I might wear them today. I might, maybe I will put them on deck. Man. What's that?
Do floaty pants and pool buoy.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I might put the pants on deck. See how that goes. Except I'll probably fall over because of my Achilles.
But when you do it, make sure you put out your phone and pull up a little Showtime music from 1994 that used to come on at like 11 o'clock at night. You know, the saxophone comes on and your parents come down. They're like, what do you watch? And you're like, nothing, Sports Center.
Skinamax.
Yeah, that's right. The old saxophone. We hope you enjoyed our tune we had today. We love you. We appreciate you. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's a one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. As always, if you need anything for your coaching needs or plans for the year, reach out. You can always email Mike. He's available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me specifically, c26coach@gmail.com.
Yeah. And did you say hit the gear and
the gear button.
Hit the gear. If you want to go hit those black diamonds with me, hit me up.
Yeah, get some C26 drip.
Yeah, we're gonna come out with a new ski line.
Are we now? Great.
Some, ski bibs, crushing slopes. Yeah, I like it. Maybe.
Yeah, it's good to me.
What else? Is there any other news? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's nothing. Got no more news. We're newsed out.
All right. Well, it is Friday, so go do something you love.
Yeah. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week with 2 fantastic podcasts. How to Not Suck at Swimming and Intro to Short Course.
Ooh. Looking forward to that.
All right, man.
See? Just look forward to it. That's what we do with the podcast, too. We don't go too far, don't go too crazy, and we look forward to the next one. So we look forward to you joining us. All right, buddy.
See you, dude.
See you, man.